Like to call to order the Peabody Planning Board meeting agenda for April 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Peabody City Hall, Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. This hearing will be access television and all this meeting live public access television at their local media channels. At this time, I'd like to suspend the regular meeting and enter into a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Board of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, April 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. This will be also in Zoom, accordance with the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 1, that the zoning map of the City of Peabody entitled City of Peabody Zoning Map, April 28, 2011, as amended, hereby further amended as follows. To redesignate the following parcels from residential R2 to central business BC. Assessors map 085 parcel 002H and numbered 10 Monroe Street, and assessors map 085 parcel 002I as numbered 12 Monroe Street. Section 2, all ordinances or part of ordinances inconsistent herewith shall be repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. At this time, I'll hear for a proponent to present this.
Thank you. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, and I'm representing 10 Monroe Realty LLC of 108 Layden Street in East Boston, Massachusetts. They have purchased the land known and numbered as 10 and 12 Monroe Street. At the time of this purchase, I had endeavored to have approved 2 duplexes to be located in an R2 zone. We took that through to the Planning Board the Conservation Commission, and the Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions. Since that approval, there has been some consideration of a special permit for the car wash that is located directly across Monroe Street from my lots, my client's lots. These are the lots at 10 and 12 Monroe Street that we've now asked to be rezoned from their current zoning to BC. They are R2 as we speak today. I'm requesting this because as the project, which is the car wash, as that was being approved, it became clear that the intention of the folks operating the car wash was to come from Central Street, head into Hardy Street, and then go up Monroe Street to the to enter the rear of the car wash. That is currently a one-way the other way. It extends from Elm Street down to Hardy. People, however, intermittently have been using it in the reverse manner, and there is signage that says that there is no entry from Hardy Street going north, if you will, on Monroe. So my clients were not intending or attempting to curtail the efforts of the car wash, and they anticipated that they would need to reorient their lots as approved by the Conservation Commission, or 2 lots, each with a duplex, and they are facing the car wash, the rear of the car wash. I think that as time goes forward, my clients began to think in terms of we're going to conflict with that traffic, our driveways are there, why don't we flip these and face Hardy Street, so that was something we considered for quite some time, and now look at the look at the makeup of Hardy Street and the makeup of the properties that extend from Central Street down toward Salem on Walnut Street, and you have at 5 Central the BC zoning, which is the Rosenfeld building, which is 13 units, 3 stories high. That's the building that is on the corner of Walnut and Central, and it is the Next Mex restaurant. Across the street is number 20 Central, adjacent to the, well, when I permitted it, it was the Danvers Savings Bank. Then it went to People's United, and today is it MT, I think MTM Bank. In any event, the 20 Central Street Fairweather Apartments consist of 88 units with 35 spaces that were built in 1969, and that is located in an R2 zone. As we head down Walnut Street, kind of across Monroe from my clients, is several hundred units in the condominiums that are located at 6 Walnut. The condominium is 5 stories. It was built in approximately 2004 and 5, and that was built in accordance with the then zoning. 18 Walnut, which is adjacent to Hardy Street, is also, that was built in 1982. That's a 7-story building. It consists of 140 units. That is business central zoned. And I think that's referred to as the Peabody House. I think the Fairweather Apartments and the Peabody House came to the city able to circumvent zoning through some Section 8 provisions, nonprofit. The Remus family built the Peabody House, and currently the Fairweather Apartments are owned by Kansas City Enterprise, which terms itself as the preservation of affordable housing. So I think that both of these units, both of these buildings are largely subsidied buildings, and they've been fully tenanted, fully occupied for years and years, and very successful. We have another building, 61 Walnut, which is the former coffee house. That has a minimum of 8 units in it at 61 Walnut Street. So we look at the zoning district we're in. It ranges from R2, GBD, BC, and even some smaller R1 zoning district, not R1, but the whole of that Tremont Street area and the streets off of it, North Central and the like, are comprised of 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots. So my clients then looked at there was this one-way problem. There we were surrounded by higher density, and so we decided collectively that they would request a zone change, and if they were successful with this zone change, we would combine the 2 lots into one single lot, and we would put a 3-story building with 33 parking spaces on the ground, which would serve 14 units. There would be an inclusionary zoning provision that would require 15% of the 14, which is, you do the math, but I think it's 1.1 unit that would need to be affordable, and we would certainly be complying with the affordable housing guidelines and also the restrictions. So we're asking that the council consider this zone change. We feel as though it makes sense in a big picture. At one point, I was looking at that new MBTA legislation, and I felt as though since our bus stop, one of our only maybe it is even the only, I think there's one at the mall too, and maybe Centennial Park. But our bus stop in Peabody Square, I thought would be a trigger of this MBTA compliance. I've learned that, and I thought that this parcel, being as close as it is to the bus stop and perhaps future train stop, would be valuable as a higher density, more yielding more units and yielding affordable housing. So I did learn, however, that we are considered an MBTA adjacent, I think, or there's a term, but it means that Salem is actually the MBTA community, and our being adjacent to Salem does require us to designate some areas, but we can go so far as to designate those areas up on even Route 1. So I'm not certain that we are going to be in MBTA designated areas, but were we to be, this zone change would yield more housing, which is the purpose and intent of the MBTA legislation, and I think is the goal of the city Community Development Department in terms of bringing revenue, bringing people to the downtown area. We are just off the downtown. In fact, the car wash is not even the last commercial development on Central Street. We have a couple of stores to the north of the car wash, and then the old courthouse pub has been converted to, I think, as many as 5 or 6 apartments, at least 4. I think there were, when the bar was there, I think there were 3. So I think it's either no less than 4, maybe as many as 6 units in that building. So we feel as though we would be providing a building that would be reviewed by, under site plan review, would be reviewed by the planning board, and at the same time be reviewed at Conservation Commission, where we would be attempting to get a new order of conditions and that would apply to this lot. And we've met with our engineers, Williams and Sparagus, and they have assured us that our design could be approved and could be approved by the Conservation Commission. So we have no reluctance to build it in accordance with the rules and regulations applying to the Conservation Commission. And with that, my clients have met with, and I have met with Councilor Peach and other councilors that have exhibited an interest. My clients have been on the site with Councilor Peach and met with several of our neighbors. Our neighbors, from a sort of political standpoint, have seen the cleanup that has been undertaken by my clients. They have also seen my clients' interest, and they're wanting to work with the car wash and the like, and we're happy to ask you to approve and recommend to the City Council this zoning change from R2 to BC. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the Planning Board may have.
Have any questions? Yes.
Through the chair. Hey, Jack, could you just educate me for a minute about why the BC designation is the correct one for your use? When I read a BC Central Business Use Group, it speaks of either a mixed-use property or a business use. You said that the applicant would be seeking to put a strictly residential building on the property?
Yes.
Could you explain to me why that's the appropriate use to request here tonight?
I believe in this instance, we need the ground floor for parking. We need to park on the ground floor, and as such, we can't have living space on the first floor, but if there were some some manner in which we could create a mixed use. Our feeling about the commercial component is, in retail especially, is that we are set back further away from the downtown, so as such, storefronts would seem not to be workable, and we wouldn't be able to gather tenants for retail or generally commercial space in that ground floor.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't read a strictly residential building. Drew, do you have any clarity on that? I just don't read the central business zone as being one that allows strictly residential projects.
Our community development's also hearing what's being presented here for the first time this evening. We just knew that they wanted to switch. I will tell you that R2 does not allow any business or industrial use by right at all, whereas BC does offer you an allowable by right ability to do certain businesses as well as by special permit as well. I believe, I don't want Jack to quote me here, but under R2 currently, multifamily dwelling is not allowed, and under BC, it's a special permit process.
Correct, but
Yeah,
I think the question
I get
that
the need
Matt
for
is
the- I get the
asking
need for the
is,
change. I mean,
we understand
certainly-
that, but can you do purely residential
I'm
without...
not reading it. I mean, I could read it right here. I mean, the mixed-use development is permitted, such as retail on the ground floor with office or business residential above by special permit. Businesses which consume large amounts. I mean, this is to provide a mix of commercial, office, and residential uses in close proximity. But the BC zone, from what I'm reading, doesn't permit a strictly residential project. So I mean, I'm not opposed to entertaining a change that would allow for residential or mixed use, but I don't know if this is the appropriate zone.
We were going to, if given this opportunity, then we would meet with community development and try to design the plan. We could put, you can put commercial buildings in on the first floor in this particular flood zone, but you can't put residences. So we would be happy to meet with them also after the zone change and talk to them.
Any other questions from the board?
Sorry, if I can also just clarify, that's currently located in an R2 kind of block. The parcels next to it, well, I guess if you are on Hardy Street, looking between the Hardy Street, Walnut Street area, that's a majority of BC zoning, and then the properties going towards Central Street are also all zoned BC as well.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the zoning map, I don't think that BC is inappropriate based on the number of BC properties in the proximity. It's just that I don't think it's the, I don't know, initial reaction to the zoning is that the BC is not the right answer for the project that Jack's talking about. But yeah, I mean, standalone BC in this area seems to make a lot of sense. It's actually puzzling about why so many of the properties you highlighted, Jack, are not business and are in fact multi-residential.
The other large project that's occurring down there is the 40B proposal, which is 128 units at Travel Leather at 58, Tanrite Leather at 58 Walnut, and to some of the other zoning that we may have considered would have been GBD, but that has no residential component.
Sorry, I mean, just looking at the different districts. I mean, it does speak of the BC/GBD downtown sort of type of zoning. Maybe that might be one to look into. I didn't read up on that one all that much, but and then the other just a statement about your comments about the use of the one-way inappropriately. I certainly hope that's not happening as a part of renovations or the use of the car wash. One ways or one ways, and I didn't know what that part of your argument was, or comments were.
Pointed at what kind of, when we saw what was happening across the street, it was going to cause us to be able to, or to probably flip our driveways, and as such, then we began to think more expansively. I don't think that it has happened yet, but I don't think there was a real well thought out why Monroe should be one way in the northerly direction versus the southerly, and it would seem that the car wash, I wasn't necessarily trying to be accusatory. I anticipate that that one way will be reversed to accommodate them. It would make sense.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Yes.
I have a few through the chair. Thank you. I tend to agree with you, Attorney Kelty, that a commercial use on the first floor would be endlessly vacant. There's other commercial mixed uses in more highly traveled streets that aren't filled, so I agree with you there. The other thing, just a commentary, is that the four duplexes to the right of that property, or behind it, I guess you could quantify, which are actually on Hardy, have been in a dilapidated state for decades. So I don't think more duplexes is the answer. So I kind of leaning towards what you're trying to do. 15% inclusionary zoning, 15% of 14 is 2.1, so I suppose you'd be doing 2 units. The other question I had doesn't matter too much, other than condos or apartments. And the reason I ask that is because if there's ownership, then there tends to be some pride. Or at least with 14 units, I would suspect that that would have some professional management that would take care of the property. That would be nice to see. You said the parking. Of course, if you ever tried to put a commercial on the first floor, then you couldn't put the parking, then you couldn't make 14 units. So when you say 3 stories, you're talking about 3 living stories, right? Yes. Okay. So
Yes, the first story is open, and then 3 stories above.
Right.
And the zoning provides 4 stories.
Right. That's all I have.
Feeling is that our eventual building would probably be similar to the building at 98 Main, and that has retail on the first floor, although I'm pretty certain it's not been very successful. I think the units in there are occupied and moving, but the retail component doesn't seem to prosper.
Coincidentally, that's the one I was thinking of. I did forget one other thing. So it appears to me that you got a higher probability of being successful and not being accused of spot zoning here, having it be the BC, where you got BC on 2 sides of you already. Is that, you in agreement with that?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this zoning amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Stephanie Peach. I reside at 19 Margin Terrace. I'm the Ward 3 counselor. I have been working with the developers on this project from their initial application for the 2 duplexes, which was by right in the R2 zone, and working with the neighbors who have, for the last 30 years, seen a vacant lot with crime and illegal disposal. So they're very happy with what has been done there so far. They are in support of this change. We are talking as we move forward into a special permit process, the density of the building. I think Attorney Kelty misspoke. From my understanding, it's only 3 stories total, parking on the first story, and then 2 stories of actual apartments. That's from the project managers over there. So 14 is the number that's been thrown out by the developer, but that is something we will continue to discuss through the special permit process, of course. But speaking with the neighborhood, they are in favor of a change that will get this lot developed and be fit well with the neighborhood. The By Right project, they were 4-bedroom duplexes, so 4-bedroom, owner-occupied duplexes, which can bring, numerous people to live in a 4-bedroom. Whereas we're looking at 2-bedroom apartments, we'll probably look at less people being brought into the city, certainly less children, so to affect our school system. So I am in favor of this change, as I represent the neighborhood who is in favor of the change. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? You had mentioned that it's only going to be 3 stories. First floor is going to be parking, and the second and third floor residential. However, if you go for the zone change, they'll be allowed by right to put an additional story on. Is that correct, Jack? Because you said that the new zone that you're looking for allows for 4 stories.
The zoning does allow for that height, but the housing is by special permit only. So why they might be able to request that many stories, I don't anticipate the city council granting them that many stories.
And I understand. I'm just throwing it out there just so people know when push comes to shove, they could ask for it, and who knows what could happen.
Also, the additional story, I wouldn't be able to accommodate parking.
If there is anybody on the Zoom platform that wishes to speak, you can use the raise your hand function, and we will call on you to speak. There's one person.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I live at 8 Walnut Street, and I'm right across
Sorry,
from the
before
lot.
you continue, can please just state your name and address?
Oh, it's Gary Fleming. I'm at 8 Walnut Street, Unit 110. So I look right out over the lot. Just to make some comments on what I've heard, that Monroe Street is a one-way heading toward Hardy, and the majority of the people who do go to the car wash do enter from Hardy and do use the one-way in the opposite direction, which they really shouldn't be doing. The other point I would make is that's not a very busy back there. As far as people, there aren't lines. Every once in a while, a car goes in here and there. So, not a big deal to switch the direction of the building, but I don't think it would be a huge problem if it did face Monroe. Also, I'd like to not see a business in there. I think it should be strictly residential. Like others have mentioned, we have looked at blight out there for years. I've been there 17 years now, and there's been, people stop and use it for a bathroom. They leave TVs. They one time left a boat. So it's definitely good to put the project there, but I think it should be strictly residential and no more than 2 stories, garage and then 2 stories. And the other point is the only thing that's really been cleaned up there is they cut down the trees. Other than that, there's been no changes to the lot. And I was surprised that the lawyer didn't mention anything about the 8 Walnut Street building, because we have 20 residents that look back there, and maybe we want to see what some of the other neighbors may think. Overall, I think it's a great idea, but like I said, I would stay away from a business there, and I'd rather see it pointing toward Monroe. I don't think it's a huge deal if it points to Walnut, but I think it would be better to point toward Monroe. And again, it's not very busy back there with people going to the car wash. I know some people go to the front of the building on Central, and I'm not sure if it's full service, if they're getting vacuum and windows washed if you go in the front, or if that's the case in the back. But especially on weekends, there's not a lot of cars that are going back there and using that entrance. And like I said, the majority come from Hardy, take a left onto the one-way Monroe, and then go into the back of the car wash. So that's all I can think of so far as from what you said. So, when I sit on my couch, I look right out to the lot. And if you were parked in a car sitting there, you'd look up and we could make eye contact. So I'd rather see the building facing Monroe, but I'm sure it won't be a huge deal if it faces the other way. So that's pretty much the points I'd like to make. And just I'd like to keep it residential. A business would be ridiculous back there. So you've got the lot next door to that, which is empty, which I think is zoned for residential. And, that would be great maybe to do something with, as opposed to having your business over on the Monroe, the 10 and 12. So I think that's all I have to say, unless you have any questions, because I do look over that lot for 17 years. Hello?
Excuse me, sir, are you in favor or in opposition?
I'm in favor of the project, but I'm in opposition to it facing Hardy, and I'm in opposition to a business being in there. Because it is nice and quiet back there. So I think strictly residential would be the best, and not too high either. And I'm sure the people who live on that side would prefer a quieter, non-business setup. There are 80 units total in the building, but only 20 would face that way.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor or in opposition to this?
Just to confirm, Jack, before you leave, I take it your next steps, if the zoning change goes through, are you planning on combining the two lots?
He said that.
Yes.
Hearing no questions from the board, I'll accept the recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I would move Planning Board recommend to the City Council to adopt the zone change from R2 to BC in regards to 10 and 12 Monroe Street.
We have a second.
Second.
Dr. Otto, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to return to the agenda for the planning board meeting. First order of business is approval of the minutes of the 4/6/2023 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the minutes of April 6, 2023.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Site building permit plan review, 55 Pulaski Street. Jack, 55 Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Do we want to wait for Andrew or Andrew? Okay. John Kelty, offices 40 Low Street, Peabody, Mass. Appearing on behalf of Dennis Giannis, trustee, who is the operator of the Roadhouse Pub, and we are at 55 Pulaski Street. We are proposing to tear down the Roadhouse Pub and build a complex referred to in our plans and referred to on our peer reviews as Mill View, located at 55 Pulaski Street. We are proposing, in summary, we're proposing, originally we proposed 8 duplex units, and four units to be located in the Roadhouse itself. As that plan began through peer review, it had problems of design. It had problems with respect to the reutilization of the Roadhouse. There was some uncertainty about fire flow in lines availability to service, and we eventually decided that to replace the Roadhouse itself with duplexes making a total of 11 duplex units for a total yield of 22 units, created a harmony that would be more enduring and more satisfying than the conversion of the Roadhouse building itself. We now are able to, through the efforts of our architect, Joseph Betancourt, we're able to bring some diversity with respect to the appearance, although they will be similar and appear to be very similar, and they will have 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bath, and will all be the same in that regard. Not all will have a garage under, not all will have the exact same appearance from the curb, in other words, the curb appeal. So we originally proposed 8 duplexes plus 4. We've now revised where our peer review that began on October of 2022 with the payment of some $24,200 as the cost of peer review. We changed along the way to the 22 units, much that required a new stormwater management plan. But in general, it was not a terribly difficult conversion, and we now have, under date of April 11th, a closeout, what I refer to as a closeout memorandum from Mr. Langley. Our reviews consisted of the Horsley Witten Group, which did stormwater management. We had Ty and Bond doing our wastewater and sewer capacity, and Weston and Sampson did our wastewater supply, and eventually discovered an issue with respect to the Dobbs Road pump station. Ty and Bond actually finished, they acquired along the way, they acquired World Tech, and Rod Emery went from working and doing peer review for World Tech to then being sort of taken in by the acquisition of World Tech by Ty and Bond, and they finished up under the, Rod Emery finished our traffic review, but under the masthead of Ty and Bond. So Mr. Langley has summarized all of our peer reviews, given us the last reports from each of the kind of summary and closeout reports from each of our reviewers, and he has in his memorandum, he has recommended under stormwater, he has recommended 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conditions, most of which are during construction and after construction, keeping things clean, keeping things up to date, filing, for instance, when we begin SWIPTI, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is an instrument that needs to be filed during construction. They have also said that during our construction, we have bed bottom inspections for all of our infiltration units. On transportation, which was World Tech Engineering and then closed out by Ty and Bond, there was no recommendation. There was a recital that we met with. We answered all the questions that they had raised months earlier, and that we are now closed out with respect to them. Ty and Bond, which did our wastewater review, there are 1, 2, 3 conditions that are, I think, rather important. One is that we need to be involved in the I&I program undertaken by and managed by the Public Services Department. That will mean that we will be contributing $46,200 to the general I&I program. They've asked us, and we've agreed that we would supply a one-time contribution of $50,000 to upgrade the Dobbs Road Sewer Station. And there is then any sewer utilities that are run outside the buildings and any tie-ins to sewer mains must be inspected by the engineering department, and those inspections should be arranged with the city by the applicant's contractor 48 hours before we intend to do it. The water supply, Weston and Sampson, those again were 1, 2, 3 conditions. Construction drawings being provided to the Director of Engineering that answer any outstanding issues that may come up during construction. In other words, if we discover the size of a pipe, which size we have received from the engineering department. If we get in the ground and we find that it's not that size, we've got to rebuild that in accordance with our plans and then supply that detail to the engineering department for their records going forward. They've asked that we give one more contribution to peer review. Someone had missed along the way an additional review, and there's a $1,500 payment that we will provide to the city of Peabody as that. And again, water lines and water utilities must be inspected during installation and construction. If we'd like, he attached, Bob did attach all of the closeout letters and reports from the various companies that I've recited having done our peer review. We do need to comply with inclusionary zoning. In order to move forward, we need to, and I have applied for a special permit with the hope that I will be compliant with their Rule 17, which says I've got to have my permits from other boards before I approach the city council. So we've waited until just recently when we knew that we were going to be closed out here, and we've applied for our special permit. That special permit is likely to be heard I'm hopeful that it'd be the second meeting in May, and perhaps even the first. And we are also needing to, this board certainly, for inclusionary zoning. We have 22 unit, 3 affordables. We found, so this not over. So we would be providing 3 units for the units may be rented, but the entirety, the complex will even it's being able to be purchased for a sale. I'm happy to answer and with me Joe Betancourt and the plan, and we're happy to answer questions you may have. Did you want to?
Mr. With Kelty, I had stated that since the project has been kind of the third iteration provided by the public services, they have satisfied all of the reviews. So now the set of plans that is the final set of plans. They will not be changing. If you read their comments, none of the conditions provided by the Department of Public Services will provided by the third-party reviewers as well. So I asked Attorney Kelty to go over the plans with the board just one last time, make sure that everybody understands in front of them what's getting approved. I have both the actual site plan. I have a set of renderings. One, you know, do you feel you want to do maybe plans and then show right after? See the renderings. We have both.
At least so that we can see see how it fits. These were by Joseph Beckford, who is here this evening. We tried to create, while we're complying with zoning, and we have rear yards to all these units, we design them so that they, in general, each unit complies with the R1A zoning requirement, with the exception of being placed on its own lot. But they're separated. They have rear yards that are compliant with zoning. And we have on that right-hand side, as we stand here, we've replaced the Roadhouse Pub with at least two, I think it's a total of 3 units where the Roadhouse sat. And now we get to create this courtyard atmosphere in which traffic can circulate either way. There's an entry and exit. I can see that from here, yes. Entry on the lower side and then exit. Circulation through with a landscaped area. Currently, there's a section of the property that has like a bunker, and that area would be converted to that island that is circled in yellow. And this design, as Joe presented it at, I think, the initial hearings, this design is something that kind of imitates some cul-de-sacs that are located. There is one right behind us that is a cul-de-sac. There is a portion off of Gardner Street extension that is called Franklin Pierce Drive. That is a small cul-de-sac to the right up between our proposed use of the property and Gardner Street. And there are a couple of other small cul-de-sacs in the area behind us, between us and Margin Street. So we've tried to kind of cluster around a center, as Joe refers to it as the arrival courtyard. We've tried to center around that area and replicate a kind of, in this instance, it's not a complete cul-de-sac, but kind of a half moon. Would you... Those are showing our gates and fencing, which is intended to be built, and showing a view from the street, from Pulaski Street, and looking right on to our units. And as you can see, from this and the next shot, you can see that while the makeup of these units is the same in terms of number of bedrooms, they do vary in height and kind of the gables and the way the gables face. Another street scene, this one being from the more Danvers side viewpoint, looking up, if you will, Pulaski Street. And that is from that's the other way. And you can see the parking that is facing Pulaski Street. There are a couple of units that there are visitor parking and parking spaces on the Pulaski Street of the site. We also not only would be complying with inclusionary zoning, but I believe that Drew is going to point out that in any approval that you may deem to give us, we need to provide you with a landscape plan, and we've spoken with Joe Betancourt tonight about that, and he will flesh out. We do show on all of these renderings substantial landscape, but the landscape plan will actually identify what those plantings are, and it'll be on its own separate sheet. And we would ask that that be submitted to the Community Development Department for its approval.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none.
I have some questions, but not relating to this presentation. I mean, I thought you were going to show, were you going to show the other?
I can show the other plan.
I don't know. That's what I thought I heard.
Attorney Kelty, just for the record, the most recent plan is January 19th, 2023? Yes. That is the date on the plan?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's correct.
The reason I said it is because we said that's what we were going to do. You're going to show the other one first and then this one, so it's the only reason I brought it up. I'm completely satisfied with this.
Any other questions from the board? At this time, I'll accept the motion.
I have just a couple things, please, through the chair. First of all, I'd like to say that I think this is a great project, and especially making it great is the removal of the existing building from the project. I think the deal with the sewer pump is a reasonable one with the city. I think that's a reasonable charge to upgrade that sewer pump on Dobbs Road. I have a question about Mr. Langley's letter using these words. I don't think this is not a 40B. So this is the words here. Because it's 40B. I think it would help. This is a situation currently where an electrical line first site to home. So whatever that takes underground, manage that with the agreement of PMLP, I think there's not an easy way to feed that because that's how they did the subdivision being built. So.
Citing sheet, that service should be relocated in accordance with the wishes of PMLP, and we'll provide an easement for that somewhere on the property that is effective to get that power to those people.
Yeah, and if you want to do it on the
Yep. I don't know
subdivision,
where it wants to go, but
Yeah,
we did.
exactly.
We tied it into the plan, so that it's got to be done.
Yeah, because that home obviously.
Yep.
I don't think you want poles and wires running through
No,
this very nice
those
little
are gone.
project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to confirm, I had switched something on the computer, so I missed that. You had stated it on the plan? It's in one of the general notes, so we...
Like note 9 on the general notes, yes.
All right, because I just want to confirm, because we could condition it if need be. General note number 9 is the applicant required to apply for a building permit prior to commencement of any grading or site work, so not that one, but...
Does this have to go to site plan review?
in front of city council.
Special permit for the city
no,
council.
I meant the other one, the what is it? No, the plan, the one where all the, yeah, construction review, that's what I meant.
This one in front of construction review almost
Okay,
a
so
year
I'm sure
ago.
that issue was brought up. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? At this time, I will accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend, in the matter of 55 Pulaski, to recommend permit to issue conditionally. Attorney Kelty has mentioned Mr. Langley's letter of April 11th, and within that are 11 recommended conditions. They will now become compulsory. Additionally, condition 12 would be, per section 6.11, no building permit to issue until affordable housing has been approved by the city council and the city/developer participation agreement has been executed by the applicant and signed by the mayor and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Condition 13 would be landscape plan to be submitted and approved by community development prior to the special permit approval. And just for clarity, this is a plan dated January 19th, 2023. So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Otto. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Joseph Gagnon,
Yes.
Dr. Judith Otto,
Yes.
Attorney Peter Avernites, Mr. Roy Simos,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Genzali,
Yes.
Mr. John Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Feld,
Yes.
Attorney Mark Perlman,
Yes.
and Mr. Thomas Betancourt.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a long road.
Item on the agenda is 2023 Recreation and Open Space Plan.
Hello, everyone. This will be taken up by me here. Since over the past year, the city of Peabody, we have been taking on the project of updating our recreation and open space plan. I kind of gave a little bit of this spiel last week, but I can do it again for everybody, just briefly, though. Recreation and open space plans are one of the most critical plans for our city, I like to believe. These are a plan that outlines our city's current recreation and open spaces, and then it also strategizes and provides a 7-year action plan for how we are to improve and expand our recreation and open spaces that currently exist in different opportunities. It's a really comprehensive document. It's about 83 pages. It goes into everything from the geology of our city to the history to the topography to then, like I said, this 7-year action plan, which is critical to our city with moving forward with our recreation and open spaces places. Within that 7-year action plan, these items are based off of goals that we came up with from our steering committee with help from community feedback. We had 6 goals on there. 4 of the goals, very similar to the 2015 plan. The 2 new goals that were taken up in 2023 was to look at our recreation and open spaces with an eye for climate resiliency and equity. This plan really reflects that. It also really reflects the preservation of open space in our city. I'm hoping that all of you were able to read the document that was in your packets. And as part of, I should also add that in approved by the state, you have to submit a recreation open space plan to the state, who reviews and approves them. A municipality that has an approved recreation and open space plan, it would make us available to, or eligible to apply for many different grants. Grants that we've actually already applied for and received funds for and a funding project on. One of the biggest ones, Park Grant. It provides some great money for projects, or park program. So as part of this final process, we are just about done. We've submitted this draft. We believe it looks pretty good. It's being reviewed currently by the state as a first draft. They're going to send us back their comments, take those comments in, we button the plan up, and we submit it back to the state for the final approval. But as such, we do need letters of recommendation as required, and one of which would be from the planning board. Please, this does not need to be a cut and dry recommendation letter. We recommend that we like what it says. You can add in there what you want to see. If the planning board wants to see X, Y, and Z, toss it into the recommendation letter. So if the board has any comments of things that they would like to see in the recreation open space plan and wishes to vote to, send in a letter of recommendation endorsing this plan, that would be great, and I can draft that up and I can include it with our plan. I'm also, if anybody has any questions on the plan, please ask me.
Taco?
Thank you. Read it. And I have super many comments that I'm not going to bother the entire board with if I could send them to you. In particular, I would like to commend for including the recommendation for capital funding to act some of these things into a capital plan. Actually, it's been done before, and it's a strong action step, I think. Mr. Chairman, move to authorize Drew to prepare a letter on our behalf to recommend acceptance of this plan.
Second.
Aye.
I will draft up a plan and I will review it if the board would like this with Chairman Betancourt and submit it on the board's behalf.
Next item on the agenda, is there any questions on correspondence?
We received a few town, municipality, regional notices as well that I have here, if they came in late, if anybody would like to review those. Really just ZBA type of things for different communities.
Other matters properly before the board?
And just last thing, sorry everyone, we did receive a site plan review. We had all the packets at the last meeting. If you did not get one, you wish to have a hard copy of said packet, please see myself or Michelle and we can make sure you get that. That's going to be on your next agenda.
I have a question for Drew, through the chair. So that document to raise the fees, is that en route to the city council?
Sorry, yes, it was submitted yesterday to be sent to the city council for their April 27th meeting. From there, we'll have to work with city clerk Allison Danforth to work on scheduling. They will have to go in front of the industrial and community development subcommittee. I take it the city council is not going to vote on it that night. They're going to submit it to, they're just going to receive it, send it to IC&D committee to hold a hearing. Simultaneously to that, the planning board will also have to have a public hearing on this.
Thank you.
Yes. Stand by. Just to make everyone aware, we had a little site visit, not a formal site visit for the board, but there were representatives from other boards and city departments. And in regards to 4748 Tremont Street, pretty much every department had an issue up there. I think the issue for the planning board was the removal of a retaining wall, and it appears to be the construction of a new retaining wall, which in my opinion is failing. The lower portion is bulging out. Property above it seems to be sliding downhill. The other portion of the missing retaining wall would have held back a sandbank, which is just a sandbank right now. So at that time, I expressed to Attorney Kelty we would be looking for an as-built to date and a plan with any modifications that they've done or they intend to do. And that's just basically my observations of the site on that day. So just wanted to share that with everyone.
I can just add to Mr. Ford's comments there. We did meet on site with many city departments. We reviewed the submitted plan and with what is currently on site. While the project is not completely done, there is things in there that looks like they haven't been done and might not be done per their plan, parking lot, certain things, islands in different landscaped areas. I have let Attorney Kelty know in the project, or in the property owner, that if that's the route they're going to go, that these are not going to be as part of the final plan, that they would have to come back in front of the planning board and explain this modification.
Any other matters for the board? At this time, I'll accept a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.